Hello, students. This is Sean Teacher coming to you today to tell you about the photographs of the American photographer Ansel Adams. Now, Ansel Adams, as I said, was an American, born in 1902, and he lived until 1984. And he is one of the best known photographers in the world. And he was a very smart man. It was more, a lot of times when people think of artists, they think, well, that guy's an artist because, he can't do math, or he isn't smart enough to be an engineer, or there's so many different ideas as to why anyone would want to become an artist. And there's this other sort of idea that photography isn't art, it's just taking a picture. And I don't want to get into that argument with anybody, but at the same time, it's out there. People don't think that, art is a real endeavor, and people don't think that photography is art. They're not everybody, but some people feel that way. And I think Ansel Adams kind of proved everybody wrong. So hold on, and we'll look at some of Ansel Adams' photography. Now, it goes without saying that Ansel Adams was pretty smart. He didn't have to be a photographer. He chose to be he was actually a trained classical pianist and had a teaching job at a university as a piano teacher, as well as was a professional photographer. So he was alive during the time of something called the Great Depression. And this was a time that pretty much all the money in the world was gone. Nobody had any money. And the government was trying to get the economy going again, the people back to work, and tried to put money out into the world so that the economy would start again. And one of the things they did was called the WPA Works Project. And what that meant is that they hired artists, photographers, sculptors, many of the famous artists that you know about were hired as WPA artists in the Great Depression in the United States. And what the government paid them to do was to go around and record, paint America. They wanted to have photographs of America, and they wanted to have paintings of America. They wanted to paint the inside of post offices, and they wanted to build new roads, and they did so many things with the WPA project. But in this particular thing, what they had Ansel Adams do was go to many public places in the United States and photograph it. Here we see a Pueblo mission in New Mexico. And Ansel Adams photographed this quite well, I think. It's interesting because other artists went there after he did this and painted this place. Not on it, but of it. They painted pictures of the mission. So this is he went to this area and sort of recorded the people that were there too. And we'll see an example of that in a moment. So this is called the White House. It's a national monument, and it is if you look underneath the cliff there, you see some Native American homes that were in the cliffs that they're still there today, national treasures, and the government thought it was important to have pictures of these. So they sent Ansel Adams out with his camera to take a breathtaking photograph of these places. And here we see a Navajo woman in her native dress and the way that she carries her baby, and this is something that we may not see too often these days. This way of life was recorded by Ansel Adams. But while he was there, he took some of these very vast, huge, gigantic, incredibly large photographs of, in this case, it's a canyon, and you can see the river at the bottom of it. But if you look at it, it's so beautiful. Now, he did his work in black and white photography, which at that time there was no color photography. But yet, here Ansel Adams is doing his artwork. And it's more than just taking a picture. He composes the picture the way a painter would. And that's the art in photography, is making a composition or putting all the things that we think should fit into a picture inside this square. And that was the art that he sort of excelled at. They also sent him to Carlsbad Caverns. And again, this is still a place that you can go see today if you want. And stalagmites and stalactites that are as big as buildings. They've been forming for millions of years. And here, Ansel Adams has taken some photographs of them. So, one thing that I want you to understand about Ansel Adams is that Ansel Adams, I have no doubt that Ansel Adams has drove right through Overton and Logandale. It would not surprise me in the least to say that he stayed the night somewhere nearby here, at some point in his life. He lived in California, but he spent a lot of time traveling through Nevada and New Mexico and Arizona. He spent a lot of time there. This is Death Valley, and Death Valley is not so far from here. And when you look at it, it's just so vast, so huge. And here's the Grand Canyon in Arizona. Something Sean Teacher wants you to understand about Ansel Adams is that he developed a kind of science. He would show back at that time, cameras used something called film. We don't use it today. We just take photographs with the memory on our smartphones. But at that time, Ansel Adams used film. And when you expose light to film, it makes the film turn dark in places. And he developed this idea of how much light you should put on the film, and he called it the zone system. So he would try to expose the light for the shadows and the light for the highlights of the picture and put them appropriately. I know it's kind of hard to explain to you, but he measured light and time in his camera. And as you can see, he did so sort of to dramatic effect. Oh my, this really is one of my favorite works by Ansel Adams. It's so beautiful. It's in Glacier National Park. And this is part of our country's history. You can go to the National Archives in Washington, D.C., and you can lay your eyes upon this photograph as an American citizen. It belongs to you. and it belongs to every American. Here's another photograph from Glacier National Park in Montana. Do you see how the trees in the front look very light, and the trees in the midground, they look dark, and then beyond that, the mountains look light again? That's the magic of Ansel Adams. Do you see how the lines are sort of vertical and diagonal? That's what he could do so well. So here we see the Snake River in the Grand Tetons, and it's amazing. If you look at the light in the sky and how the light falls on the mountains and the river, how it makes the water in the river shine, it's just magic what he could do with a camera. And once again, this is another one of my favorite works by Ansel Adams. Just old dead wood in front of the water, and we can see that sort of reflection on the water. This is camera magic, and strangely enough, it was never titled, so we don't even know what its name is. But wow, isn't it beautiful? So, to prove to you that Ansel Adams has been in your neighborhood, what is this place? Do you know? They called it the Boulder Dam, but I think it has another name now. And this just proves what Sean Teacher was saying, that Ansel Adams spent a lot of time right here in this neighborhood, and he took a lot of photographs in this area. So Ansel Adams, in a way, is part of our history, and I thought you should know about him. So, what do you think of his photographs? What do you think of his landscape photography that he did? I'll look forward to hearing your answers. See ya. Bye.